everyone, ready for another deep dive? Today we're tackling mental strength and well-being.
Sounds good.
We'll be exploring this topic through a fascinating lens, a YouTube video by Qasim Ali Shah.
Yeah.
You familiar with him?
I'm not, actually.
Well, he's a pretty well-known Pakistani motivational speaker and scholar, and what's really cool about his approach is that he blends modern psychology with spiritual insights. The video we're diving into is called 3 Signs You're Mentally Strong and Healthy.
Interesting. I'm curious to see what he has to say.
Me too. So he starts off by talking about the 4 parts that make up a human being: the body, the mind, the heart, and the soul.
Okay.
And he makes this really interesting comparison between the body and the soul.
How so?
Well, he describes the body as something material, like a physical thing. But the soul, he says that's pure energy.
Ah, I see.
And it made me think about, like, when someone passes away, their body's still there, but it's just a shell, right?
Yeah,
It's at that animating force, that energy that's gone.
that's a powerful way to put it.
It really is. And then he goes on to talk about the vastness of the universe.
Okay.
And he drops this mind-boggling number:
What's that?
2 trillion galaxies.
Whoa, 2 trillion.
Yeah. Just trying to wrap your head around that makes you feel pretty insignificant, huh?
It definitely puts things into perspective.
Right. And he uses this to kind of bring it back down to Earth, so to speak.
How so?
Well, he starts zooming in, from the vast expanse of the universe to our Milky Way galaxy, then to our solar system, and finally to us here on this little planet.
Okay.
And then he says something that really stuck with me.
What's that?
He says that compared to the universe, the space we physically occupy is basically the size of our grave.
Whoa.
I know, right?
Oh,
It's a pretty stark visual.
it is, but also kind of makes you think, huh?
For sure. It makes you realize how small we really are in the grand scheme of things. And it makes you wonder what really matters,
Absolutely. I'm starting to see where he's going with this.
Me too. And this
Yeah.
actually leads perfectly into what he talks about next, which is mental health.
Okay.
So we're pretty good at measuring our physical health, right? We've got all these metrics and tests.
Yeah.
But how do we measure mental health? How do we even know if our mind is truly healthy?
That's a great question.
It is, isn't it? And that's exactly the question Qasim Ali Shah asks.
So what's his answer?
Well, he lays out 3 key signs of a truly strong mind.
I'm all ears. Tell me about them.
Okay, so the first one he calls itminan.
Itminan.
Yeah, not a word I was familiar with either.
Me neither. What does it mean?
So itminan is all about inner contentment, this deep sense of peace that's not dependent on external circumstances.
Ah, okay. So it's not like happiness, which can be fleeting and based on what's happening around you.
Exactly. It's more like, think of a pendulum swinging back and forth.
Oh, right.
Itminan is like that pendulum coming to rest right in the center, finding that perfect balance.
Gotcha. So it's not just about feeling happy in the moment, but about having this more stable and enduring sense of peace within.
Precisely. And he emphasizes that this inner peace isn't something you just keep to yourself. He says it shows up in how you interact with the world, in the genuineness of your smile, your peaceful demeanor. He even uses the Prophet Muhammad, known for his serenity, as an example.
Interesting. So it's like this inner peace radiates outward.
Exactly. And that really resonated with me. If you're always chasing after those fleeting highs, always looking for the next thing to make you happy, maybe that's a sign that your mental pendulum is swinging a little too wildly.
It's like you're always searching for something outside yourself to fill that void.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Itminan is about finding that inner balance, that sense of okayness with yourself and the world around you, no matter what's happening externally.
Sounds like a powerful concept. I'm already intrigued.
Me too. But before we go too deep into Itminan, let's hear about the second sign of mental strength he talks about.
Okay, what's that?
This one is all about flexibility and adaptability, or you could even call it resilience, that ability to bend without breaking.
Right.
And to illustrate this point, he talks about the social fabric of Pakistan, a nation that's faced a lot of hardships.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And despite it all, he sees this incredible resilience among the people, a willingness to adapt and overcome no matter what.
I can see that. Like they've learned to roll with the punches, so to speak.
Exactly. He even mentions the MBTI personality framework, specifically the concept of adaptability.
Oh, interesting. How does he tie that in?
Well, he basically says that a strong mind is a flexible mind, one that can adapt to change without falling apart.
That makes sense. We all face challenges and unexpected changes in life, so being able to adapt is essential.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've got inner peace and flexibility. What's the third sign he highlights?
I'm curious to hear this one. Lay it on me.
This one really got me thinking. He talks about aligning your actions with a higher purpose. Not just chasing worldly success, but making decisions based on something bigger than yourself.
That's deep.
Right. It's about considering the long-term consequences of your actions, both in this life and, well, beyond.
So it's not about disregarding worldly success altogether,
Yeah.
but about making sure it's not the only driving force in your life.
Exactly. There needs to be something more meaningful behind your actions. And he brings up this really cool definition of genius that's attributed to Hazrat Ali.
Oh, what's that?
So according to this definition, true genius isn't just about being smart.
Okay.
It's about considering the long-term impacts of your actions and aligning them with a higher purpose.
I see. It's about thinking beyond your own immediate desires and considering the bigger picture.
Precisely. And for Qasim Ali Shah, the ultimate measure of success is seeking divine approval.
That makes sense, given his spiritual perspective.
Right. It's about aligning your actions with something bigger than yourself, something beyond just material gain or personal ambition.
It's about finding that sense of meaning and purpose that transcends the everyday.
Exactly. I'm starting to see how these three signs, inner peace, flexibility, and aligning with a higher purpose, were all connected.
Me too. It's like they're all part of a bigger picture, a more holistic way of thinking about mental strength.
Absolutely. It's not just about gritting your teeth and pushing through.
Right. It's about cultivating a deeper sense of inner well-being and purpose.
Exactly. And this whole idea of itminan, that deep inner peace, it actually reminds me of something else that's been getting a lot of attention in the West. Mindfulness.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Well, both itminan and mindfulness are about cultivating a sense of inner stillness, of being present in the moment, of observing your thoughts and emotions without judgment.
I see the connection. It's about finding that calm amidst the chaos of everyday life.
Exactly. And I think that's a skill that's more important than ever in today's world, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. With all the distractions and pressures we face, it's easy to get caught up in the whirlwind and lose sight of what truly matters.
Right. But before we dive too deep into the connection between itminan and mindfulness, we need to take a quick break.
Sounds good. I'm ready to hear more about this when we get back. All right, we're back. Picking up where we left off, talking about itminan and mindfulness.
And, it just hit me, this idea of finding that inner peace, that stillness amidst all the chaos can be really tough in today's world, don't you think?
Definitely a challenge.
I mean, we're constantly bombarded with information, external pressures. It's hard to shut off that mental chatter.
You know what's interesting? Qasim Ali Shah actually addresses that directly in the video.
Really?
He talks about how obsessed we are with happiness in modern society.
Yeah.
This idea that we should always be striving for this, constant state of euphoria.
Yeah, be happy all the time.
Exactly. He even mentions how there are, thousands of books published every year promising to reveal the secrets to happiness.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's a whole industry.
It really is happiness has become this commodity.
And we're told to chase it like it's the ultimate goal, the key to a fulfilling life.
Right, but what if we've got it all wrong?
You mean, what if we're looking in the wrong place?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where he draws this crucial distinction between happiness and itminan.
Okay, I'm listening.
So happiness, he argues, it's often fleeting, right?
Yeah.
Dependent on external circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
You get a promotion, you win the lottery, you buy that new gadget, you might feel a surge of happiness.
Sure.
But it's temporary. It fades.
Okay, whereas itminan is what? Something deeper, more grounded.
Precisely. It's about cultivating this sense of contentment, this inner peace that isn't contingent on those external things.
So it's not about what you have or what's happening around you.
Right. It's about finding the equilibrium within yourself, regardless of what life throws at you.
So it's like finding that steady center within ourselves, that place of calm, amidst the storm.
That's a great way to visualize it. And it ties back to that pendulum analogy.
Oh, right.
True mental strength, in this sense, isn't about always chasing those fleeting moments of happiness.
Those ups and downs.
Yeah. It's about finding that steady point, that sense of stability within yourself.
It's about becoming less reactive to all the external events and finding a sense of peace within.
Exactly. And it's fascinating how this idea of itminan, it kind of echoes similar concepts in other traditions as well.
Like what?
Well, for example, in Stoic philosophy, there's this idea of focusing on what you can control.
Okay.
Like your own thoughts, actions, and reactions.
Yeah, right.
Instead of letting yourself be swayed by external circumstances that are, outside of your control.
Yeah, I get that. So it's about cultivating that inner resilience,
Exactly.
that ability to navigate life's ups and downs without losing your center.
You got it. And that actually brings us back to Qasim Ali Shah's second sign of mental strength, if
Yeah.
you remember.
Flexibility and adaptability.
You got it. And to really drive this point home, he makes this really interesting comparison. He talks about the social fabric of Pakistan, a nation that's been through so much hardship.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he points out this incredible resilience among the people, a willingness to adapt and overcome no matter what.
It's like they've learned to just roll with the punches.
That's it. And I remember he shares this story, too, about a young girl who was orphaned.
Right, but then her neighbors raised her.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it just highlights this idea of collective strength, this ability to rely on each other.
Yeah, like when systems fail, families and communities step up to support each other.
Exactly. It's a beautiful example. And it also showcases this incredible adaptability, this ability to bend without breaking,
It's like they've learned to embrace the fact that life is unpredictable.
to flow with the changes rather than resisting them.
I love that. It's a much more empowering way to look at it.
It is, isn't it? And that kind of reminds me of this saying from Stoicism,
What's that?
the obstacle is the way.
The obstacle is the way. What does that mean?
So it means that instead of seeing challenges as like roadblocks, we can learn to see them as opportunities for growth, for adaptation,
So it's about finding a way through those obstacles.
or even over them or around them. The point is, there's always a
But
way.
it's a much more positive outlook.
Definitely. And it reminds us that true mental strength isn't about being rigid and unyielding.
It's about being flexible, resourceful, and able to adjust
Exactly. It's about being like that willow tree that bends in the wind.
instead of a stiff oak that snaps under pressure.
Precisely. And that brings us to Qasim Ali Shah's third and final sign of mental strength.
Okay, I'm ready for this one.
This is the one that really ties everything together, I think.
Lay it on me.
Aligning your actions with a higher purpose.
Okay, break that down for me.
So it's about going beyond the individual,
Yeah,
beyond chasing personal gain.
thinking about the bigger picture.
Exactly. It's about acting in ways that contribute to something larger than yourself.
So it's not that we shouldn't have personal ambitions or strive for success.
Right. But it's about ensuring those pursuits are guided by something deeper.
Something more meaningful.
Exactly. And he even talks about that definition of genius, again, the one from Hazrat Ali.
Right, where it's not just about being smart, but about making choices that have a positive long-term impact.
You got it. It's about having that wisdom and foresight to act in a way that benefits not just yourself, but also those around you, the world at large.
And for Qasim Ali Shah, that higher purpose boils down to seeking divine approval.
Yeah, aligning your actions with a spiritual compass, with a sense of what's truly right and good.
And, I think that resonates even if you don't necessarily frame it in a religious way.
I agree.
It's about asking yourself, what am I contributing to the world? Am I living in a way that reflects my values?
It's about finding that sense of meaning, that guiding force that helps you make choices that are both personally fulfilling and also contribute to something bigger.
What I find so fascinating about Qasim Ali Shah's perspective is that he's not just throwing out a bunch of rules. He's giving us a framework for understanding mental strength that's grounded in ancient wisdom, but also modern psychology.
It's this beautiful blend of Eastern and Western thought, spiritual insight, with practical application.
And I think that's what makes it so compelling. It's not just about feeling good in the moment.
It's about cultivating a lasting sense of inner peace, resilience, and purpose.
And these three signs he lays out, itminan, flexibility, and aligning with a higher purpose, they're all interconnected, right?
They are woven together like a tapestry.
Yeah, a tapestry of true mental strength.
Exactly. It's a holistic approach to well-being, one that encompasses your thoughts, emotions, actions, even your spiritual connection.
And it makes you wonder, how do we actually cultivate these qualities in our lives?
Right. Like, what does it look like to practice itmina, to be flexible, to truly align your actions with a higher purpose?
These are some great questions.
Questions that deserve some real exploration.
Well, lucky for us, we've got another part of this deep dive to unpack these ideas further.
Indeed. We've got a lot more ground to cover. It's funny how we often connect mental strength with being stoic,
Yeah.
like not showing any emotions.
Right, like you got to be tough.
Yeah. But Qasim Ali Shah, he actually has a totally different take.
Oh.
He's not about suppressing your feelings at all.
Interesting. So what does he say?
He actually stresses how important the heart is.
Okay.
Acknowledging and understanding our emotions.
Right,
He
right.
even lists out like 27 basic human emotions.
Wow, 27.
And then he talks about how you can categorize them as positive or negative,
Okay.
which leads to 54 different emotional states.
That's a lot. So he's not saying we should ignore our emotions.
Yep, not at all. He sees them as a core part of being human.
Okay, but how does that fit with mental strength?
That's where Minnan comes back in.
Right, that inner peace.
Exactly. It's not about getting rid of emotions.
okay.
It's about finding that balance.
So managing them in a healthy way.
Yes, not letting them control you.
It's like riding the waves instead of getting swept away.
Perfect analogy. And connecting to a higher purpose, that can really help with this.
How so?
Well, when you're grounded in something bigger than yourself,
Yeah.
it gives you perspective.
Right, right.
You can experience your emotions without being totally overwhelmed.
So it's not about pretending you don't have feelings.
Yeah.
It's about finding healthy ways to process them.
Absolutely. It's about creating space between the emotion and how you react to it.
I see.
So you can respond thoughtfully, not just react impulsively.
You know, that reminds me of mindfulness.
Oh, yeah. How so?
Well, like paying attention to your breath, noticing your thoughts and feelings,
Right.
but without judging them, just observing them.
Exactly. And that can be so helpful for cultivating itminan.
That inner peace we keep talking about.
Yes. Finding that stillness amidst the chaos of life.
It's pretty amazing how these ancient practices are now being used in modern psychology.
Right. Like to help people's mental well-being.
Yeah. It shows you how much wisdom there is in these traditions.
Absolutely.
And I think Qasim Ali Shah really bridges that gap between ancient wisdom and modern psychology.
He blends the spiritual insights with those psychological concepts in a way that feels like both timeless and current.
He's not saying we should all go live in a cave and meditate. Right.
Definitely not. He's giving us a framework for understanding mental strength that we can actually use in our lives.
And it's a framework that really values compassion.
Oh, absolutely.
Both for ourselves and for others.
It's about recognizing we're all interconnected.
Yeah.
And that our actions, they have an impact.
And that true strength isn't about suppressing our emotions.
It's about understanding and managing them in a healthy way.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, any final thoughts?
Well, I'm left with a question for you and for all our listeners, really.
That game.
If Qasim Ali Shah is right, and mental strength really is about aligning our actions with a higher purpose, what does that purpose look like for you?
That's a powerful question.
It's about figuring out what truly matters.
What we want to offer the world.
Yes. It's about finding that guiding light.
That helps you through all the complexities of life.
Exactly.
And make choices that truly reflect your values.
And I think it's important to remember.
Yeah.
There's no one right answer.
It's a personal journey.
But asking the question is what matters.
Being open to that deeper exploration within ourselves.
That's the key.
Well, on that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive.
It's been a fascinating exploration.
I've learned a lot. Thanks for joining us, everyone.